Yes, Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, honestly, I've been taken aback. Mr. Speaker, this is not a better use of taxpayers' money. Mr. Speaker, this is a country that is in default, a country that is in a major economic crisis. We cannot use taxpayers' money this way. Mr. Speaker, the information before us is troubling, and Mr. Speaker, indeed very worrying. Mr. Speaker, let me say this. It is about time that this House take a position against certain loans coming from the World Bank. Mr. Speaker, we should not take World Bank loans for granted as if due diligence has been done. Mr. Speaker, this House has a responsibility to treat World Bank loan as any other loan because, Mr. Speaker, we are going to pay for it. Mr. Speaker, honestly speaking, in recent past, this House has questioned some disbursement made by the World Bank Country Office. Mr. Speaker, I want to serve a notice that immediately after this, I'm going to petition the World Bank Country Office and World Bank HQ in Washington. Because this is not the way to spend taxpayers' money. Mr. Speaker, what I've seen here is troubling. Mr. Speaker, this is prefix on certain information. Mr. Speaker, I refer you to the committee document, Annex A5. Annex A5. This is a document that was submitted to the committee during the consideration. Mr. Speaker, Annex A5 says that so far, the Ministry of Works and Housing has drawn down $127.1 million of the $200 million. $127.1 million US of the $200 million US, of which $65 million US was used for the purposes of COVID. The Speaker, first, let me put on record that this House, the government of the day, has not accounted to this House on COVID expenditures. So, Speaker, this House rather constituted a committee for the committee to investigate the COVID expenditures. Mr. Speaker, again, Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General's report has been laid before us, and it's yet to be considered by the committee on the Public Account Committee. Mr. Speaker, aside the 65 million, if you are to deduct the 65 million from the 127 million, Mr. Speaker, approximately $62 million had gone into the account of the Ministry of Works and Housing. But, Mr. Speaker, strangely, Annex 2 of the document, the Ministry of Works and Housing can only account for $34.3 million. So where is the rest of the money? In which account is the rest of the money sitting? Mr. Speaker, it is only $34.3 million that I have seen some level of, they said that they paid consultancy fee, 200,000, goods, 1.2 million, they have grants to MDAs and all. So far, Mr. Speaker, the only one that we can say that they have provided some expenditure returns is $34.3 million. Mr. Speaker, where is the remaining $30 million? And what did you use the money for? Mr. Speaker, these are serious questions. Mr. Speaker, we are also told that about $42 million was used to dredge the Odo River. 42. Mr. Speaker, $42 million was used to dredge the Odo River. How? Mr. Speaker, 42 million. And we've seen the Odo River in this current state. Mr. Speaker, this is not a proper use of taxpayers' money. Mr. Speaker, the NDC minority will vote against this loan. Mr. Speaker, we are not stopping at the voice vote. We will count the heads today because we cannot support this loan. Mr. Speaker, this loan should not be entertained. All of us as a House, Mr. Speaker, must reject this loan. Mr. Speaker, I heard the minister responsible for finance giving assurances that we should give him the chance for him to go and investigate and come back to us in 2 months' time. But right, Honorable Speaker, the minister responsible for finance assured us not long ago that he's going to come back to us on tax waivers. So, Speaker, to date, he has not come back to us. So, Speaker, to date, we are still waiting on him. So, Speaker, I cannot take his word. I cannot take his word for me to change my position. So, Speaker, in this occasion, this particular IDA loan from the World Bank, all of us, Mr. Speaker, must reject this loan. Because the Speaker, clearly, Ghana does not need to approve this loan. Mr. Speaker, the $200 million that we approved earlier has been misappropriated. Clearly, Mr. Speaker, it has been misappropriated. Mr. Speaker, at best, it has been misapplied. Mr. Speaker, the evidence is there for all of us. But I only want to plead with this House, Mr. Speaker, please let's commit part of Parliament's budget to commission a forensic audit on this matter. Mr. Speaker, I plead that let us commit part of Parliament's budget to commission a forensic audit on the usage of this $200 million. Mr. Speaker, this cannot continue. This cannot continue. And Mr. Speaker, in this occasion, I urge the MPP majority to stand with the people of Ghana and reject this loan, because, Mr. Speaker, the loan has been misapplied. Mr. Speaker, with this few words, I wish to say that the NDC minority will oppose this loan vehemently. Mr. Speaker, with all our strength and all our numbers, we are voting against this loan, not only with voice votes, but we will count our heads. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that the chair of the appointment committee has corrected the committee's report. Mr. Speaker, the committee's report is a majority decision because we could not approve the nominees by consensus. Mr. Speaker, the minority does not support these nominations because our country has gone through and continues to go through very, very difficult times, Mr. Speaker, including crippling economic crisis, food insecurity, doomsday, debt or default, Mr. Speaker, obviously as a result of reckless borrowing to finance consumption. Mr. Speaker, ordinary Ghanaians continue to bite the bullet, and businesses are struggling under a high tax regime and a high inflation. Mr. Speaker, and again, a sliding and a depreciating currency. Right, Honorable Speaker, in times like this, we expect the government to signal to the people of Ghana and the investment community that the government is ready and willing to do things differently to restore the needed confidence in our economy. Right, Honorable Speaker, it cannot be the case that while the government asks the people of Ghana to tighten their belts, this government would rather lose their belt. Mr. Speaker, merely piling on ministers and deputy ministers does not signal to the people of Ghana that the president understands the seriousness of the mess that has been created in this administration. Mr. Speaker, this government must downsize its size of government and signal to the people of Ghana, Mr. Speaker, that it cares, and they are ready to reverse some of the losses, some of the economic losses that we have made. Mr. Speaker, it is important for the president to signal to the people of Ghana once again that he is in tune with the feedback and appreciate the challenges resulting in the bad economic policies that have been implemented by his government. Mr. Speaker, already President John Mahama has made a public statement that in his next government he is going to reduce the size of government to 60 ministers and deputy ministers. Interestingly, Mr. Speaker, Alhaji Bawumia, who is the vice president of this government, Mr. Speaker, he was part of the government that appointed 125 ministers, has even gone further to say that in the unlikely event that he becomes the president of this country, Mr. Speaker, he is going to reduce the size of government to 50. Mr. Speaker, respectfully, Mr. Speaker, I may ask, what is the prudent justification for a minister of state at the Ministry of Finance, 2 deputy ministers, and a minister of finance himself? Mr. Speaker, 4 at the Ministry of Finance. Mr. Speaker, if I may ask again, at the local government ministry, there is a minister at the Ministry of Local Government, 2 deputy ministers, and a minister of state. Mr. Speaker, why? Why? Is it the prudent use of taxpayers' money? Mr. Speaker, this is unfortunately most imprudent use of the taxpayers' money. We cannot, Mr. Speaker, in good conscience, support the approval of these nominees, especially when this government has been reckless, wasteful, Mr. Speaker, and most importantly, very insensitive to the plight of the people of Ghana. Right, Honorable Speaker, the NDC Minority Caucus will not and cannot take part in this decision to further increase the size of this administration. Mr. Speaker, we cannot be part of this. Finally, Mr. Speaker, let the record reflect that the NDC Minority Caucus cannot be part of this approval process. To further increase the size of this government, Mr. Speaker, let the record reflect. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I want to signal that we are walking out, and let it be recorded that they took these decisions themselves. We are not part of it. Mr. Speaker, we have counted their numbers already, and we know their numbers. Let the record reflect that the NDC is not part of this approval process. If you don't care, we care. If you don't care, we care, and we will be part of this. Stay and approve it, and in the end, take responsibility for what you are doing to the people of Ghana. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Responsibility, work out, go. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye.